When a game or a movie critic makes a game or a movie, haters use that as a gauge of their prowess in the critique field. When those products have the expected low level of quality, it doesn't entirely invalidate critics' points, because critique and production are two unrelated fields at all. And even when you do try to compare those products to the ones made professionally, you should compare them to the products of matching budgets, and not to the products of milliarder corporations made by crews of thousands of people. Yet, pretty often those works by critics contain such grievous mistakes that you start to question if they ever played a game or watched a movie in their life. My favorite example is Yahtzee, who talks a lot about writing and game design, and then wrote one of the worst books I've ever read, and made a game with a dank sauce bullshit difficulty, where a checkpoint before the death-kill murder boss contains a terrible long cutscene that you will see for thousands of times, and then also a section of the level you have to replay. Hello, brain. So, Logic Bombs is a game designed by a widely known in very narrow circles YouTuber Mathematosis who makes videos critiquing games. And, well, like all the old gaming tubers, he is so done with gaming that he slowed down and makes maybe one video in several years. This is a puzzle game combining Nonogram, Minesweeper, and some Bomberman rules and aesthetics. And I have two problems with the game. The first one is an objective evaluation of a commercial product, where you have to consume the fruit of someone's masturbation. The other is my taste, because I, as a generalist, do not like this style of play, yet there are probably some specialists that find this style of puzzle games more appealing than the other style. So, the problem with the product is that the stated goal was to make a game targeting hardware released in 1989. That's almost as old as me. It saw Soviet Union. It saw Berlin Wall fall. It saw Pinochet, Pol Pot, Tiananmen Square protests, Kim Il-sung. When I reached the age when I could own one, it was already an archaic, antique, outdated piece of crap. Even on its release, it was still a terrible piece of junk with the worst screen in history that was eating extremely expensive alkaline batteries faster than modern phones and laptops lose charge. It was so bad it saw very small sales in select countries where it was protected by the governments, where on free markets it was almost unknown, entirely annihilated by brick game devices in all varieties. Which also were cheaper, had good visibility screen, and kept working even on extremely expensive, but a bit less than alkaline, salt batteries for many days. For the PC port, there's at least an option to turn off the mega graphics, swapping it for a clean normal sprite set. But there's no option for high-res sound to match the sprites. The only sound you have is bit-crushed recordings of Matt's farts that hurt human ears. You can turn the sound off, and then you will play it like it's an 1890s silent film. Being designed for one of the worst hardwares in human history, dictated the rest of the design. First of all, the GUI is Moon Logic and is lacking all the features anyone younger than 60 expects from a game. There are no hover-over tips, no menu buttons with human words, only some random things you click and who knows what they do. The controls are stupid. The prompts are hard-coded for Game Boy and there's no rebindable keys, so you cannot look up the key bindings. There's no button for a list of rules. There isn't even an external manual to party like it's the 70s, and no one invented putting key bindings menu inside the game yet. There's no overflow notification, despite it being easy to implement even on Game Boy hardware. For the game there's no real and proper tutorial. The game wastes cycles to self-praise the result of Matt's Game Boy masturbation, showing you walls of self-congratulatory texts. And then just throws the player into the game without explaining anything. Experienced nonogram players can solve the first puzzle, and maybe a couple more. But what if it's someone's first nonogram-type affair? Or someone's first game period? And then the game starts to misadjusting hard. It throws in new mechanics that it doesn't explain until several levels later, yet expects you to succeed. Right in the beginning levels the game says that the devils must be killed with bombs. And the starting setups already kill the devils. Why add anything? Like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Why do you have to fill the field?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
The game shows autofellatory taunts instead of giving you the whole set of rules. You cannot look them up, but it already demands you to perform something you cannot know about. The actual goal is not to blow up the devils as the game says, but to do the nonogram puzzle. And the actual rules demand to not have a single square disconnected from blue rhombuses. To not explode the rhombuses, other bombs, or already exploded devils. And to separate the rhombuses into the rooms, each containing at least one exploded devil. Because of bad hardware, there's no list with all the rules, and you cannot easily look them up. The rules are hard-coded into the levels, and all levels look the same. Because the level select screen is a featureless field of the same tiny repeating sprite. Even opening the solved levels one by one, it's extremely easy to lose count, especially since it's 16 base. If only humanity could invent numbering the rows and columns in tables. If only humanity could invent highlighting the currently selected row and column. If only humanity could invent not wasting screen space on self-glazing graffitis. The dev commentary in the levels is a bit pretentious and obnoxious. The chosen wording is very patronizing, especially under the guise of tutorialization. Like, yeah, that does sound like his YouTube vids. But you expect that guy to be a character. And then someone unironically calling you an idiot for not being able to solve bicubic equations in your head. Like, the level text that says, "Brew just chill, brew it's so obvious, brew," and it's the most infuriating level by that point. Not chill at all. Nothing chill about it. After wasting an hour solving a third of the level, the game with no saves offers only one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment. Would you capture it or just let it slip? That beginning with poorly paced crap tutorial is terrible, but then people hit the fourth row. The fields are arranged like matrix calculations with numbers on all sides. It expects you to read this moon logic and to live in Matt's brain. The game doesn't even try to explain that until later, and when it does it only makes things worse. That interface is pure moon logic. The ads scream the word logic as many times as a crook screams, "I'm not a crook." You heard about graphics drawn by programmers? Now the tutorials written by programmers are back, baby. This is like a POV VR interactive fiction from inside a loony bin. Instead of using human words to talk with humans, or, instead of targeting the real hardware, instead of remembering days of mega past when Game Boy was still sold in the stupid country. That design is so terribly bad, even saner people struggle to explain it in human words. Sigma is supposed to mean summation. But not summation like it's used in mathematics, no. Sigma is just used instead of equals. And they are not tied to the rows / columns they are actually occupy. On normal hardware they would continue their rows and columns. So, the right one is the sum of all the numbers in the columns. The left one is the sum of all the numbers in the rows. The game introduces unknown rows and/or columns, so subtracting smaller sigma from bigger sigma gives an answer how many squares are in all the unknown lines of the smaller sigma. And here's the kicker. For how much confusion and frustration this terrible GUI design brings, it is used only 2, maybe 3 times. Because in the same row the puzzles start to have both unknown rows and unknown columns. And then the amount of unknown elements starts to pile up, and the puzzles almost never use sigma for anything too useful. Even if you solve them perfectly, there's still too much unknown. Players who come from the superior products instantly recognized all the flaws in the GUI and started to request fixes. But after all that feedback, Matt, not Pat, just publicly doubled down on the bad interface. Now to the design. It's cool just how hard this game follows the recognizable Bomberman and nonogram gameplay elements, despite not being like any of them. There are 2 types of puzzle design.
My kind of
Puzzle design.
And assholes.
One type treats puzzles as a game, where you see the first step, and from it go to the next, then next, until you solve it. The other type treats puzzles as complex mathematical problems, where you look at it and solve the entire thing in your head before ever committing anything to paper. There's no overflow meter, which shows you being already obviously wrong. The game has no saves, only the autosaves. Means you do one mistake or an error, you have to restart. Which is never explained. Hold, RMB, on the level select in the level select screen. Every level has 50/50 situations that do not make the next move clear, instead you have to go 4, or many more, moves deeper to see if that assumption was wrong or if it was right. Brute force solutions are not logic. There's zero logic in this is 50/50, so let's pick one at random and solve it until it's proven to be wrong or right. It's not logic, it's brute force. I picked this choice because I tossed a coin, is already a step without logic, and past the midpoint it has super complex mathematical equations that an average person would not solve properly. Even a not rusty person would not. Because there's just not enough information. The numbers are small, so instead you are supposed to solve complex mathematical equations with trial and error. What if x equals 1, y equals 2, z equals 3, a equals 4, b equals 5, n equals 6? Didn't work. Try x equals 3, y equals 8, z equals 0, a equals 6, b equals 4, etc. Trial and error, superb logic. There are many levels where the rule of painting tramples a logical solution. Many levels solved by vibes and feels. A lot of pattern recognition and vibe recognition puzzles. If they have a legit solution or not is beside the point. Avoiding guessable puzzles is also an important part of puzzle design. And as saying goes, any overly complex mechanical device is indistinguishable from magic. Not everyone is a non-functional spurgtist. If it feels random for the absolute majority of consumers, it is considered random from the practical standpoint. Hell, the puzzle genre is probably the biggest in the whole gaming, so making a puzzle game means that the potential market is enormous. Means the sweet spot would be a design for the most average person, for that moving goalpost of 100, ±20, IQ, not the Mensa member smelling their own gas after paying for tutors to receive a benefitless certificate. There's also no progression from easy to hard, the difficulty is all over the place. And not in the designed way, where easier puzzles are used to break the monotony or to remind the player the basic mechanics. No, pure random. By the 10th row I was so absolutely done with the game I started just to randomly draw things, until they fit, just to be done with it. Logic bombs. Well, we'll see in the accounting charts. It says it's the realm of pure logic, so if it bombs, it is logic. If it doesn't bomb, it means it's not logic at all.